In the golden age of TV, when the American West was a landscape of myth and morality, one father-son duo captured the heart of a nation. For 168 episodes, Lucas and Mark McCain of The Rifleman weren't just characters, they were family. Their bond, set in the fictional town of North Fork, New Mexico, represented a kind of steady, principled love that felt both real and something to aspire to. The image of Chuck Connors as the stoic, rifle-wielding father and a young, earnest Johnny Crawford as his son is etched into the collective memory of a generation. It was a relationship built on respect, tough lessons, and an unwavering affection that kept audiences glued to their sets week after week, but as we all know, Hollywood is a town of illusions. The lines between the characters we adore and the actors who play them often get blurry, leaving fans to wonder where the performance stops and reality kicks in. For decades, the true nature of the relationship between Chuck Connors and Johnny Crawford was a subject of quiet speculation. Crawford, known for his gentle spirit and private nature, rarely went into detail about the man who played his father. This silence created a void, one that was quickly filled with rumors, assumptions, and a whole lot of curiosity about what really happened when the cameras weren't rolling. Was their connection as genuine as it looked? Or was it all just a masterclass in acting? Now, after years of dignified quiet, the full story can be told. In heartfelt reflections and candid interviews from his later years, Johnny Crawford finally opened up, painting a picture of his relationship with Chuck Connors that is far more complex, emotional, and human than anyone could have guessed. This isn't a story about a hidden feud, nor is it a simple tale of perfect harmony. It's the truth about a bond that started with fear, grew into a mentorship, and finally settled into a lifelong admiration, shaped by both intense pressure and profound kindness. This is the real story of what it meant to be Chuck Connors' son, both on and off the screen. So what happens when a 12-year-old kid, fresh out of the Mickey Mouse Club, gets cast opposite one of Hollywood's most imposing figures? For Johnny Crawford, landing the role on The Rifleman was a dream come true, but it was also a trial by fire. He admitted, in his own words, that he was secretly terrified of Chuck Connors. Their undeniable on-screen chemistry hid a behind-the-scenes reality that was far more intense, a dynamic built on sky-high expectations and a relentless perfectionism that would be daunting for any actor, let alone a child. What was it about the man who played America's favorite dad that initially filled his on-screen son with such fear? And how did a relationship that started with intimidation blossom into one of the most meaningful friendships in Hollywood history? To really get why Johnny Crawford was so nervous, you have to understand the man he was working with. Chuck Connors wasn't just an actor, he was a force of nature. Standing a towering 6'6", he was a former pro athlete who'd played for the Boston Celtics in the early days of the NBA and even had a run with the Brooklyn Dodgers and Chicago Cubs in Major League Baseball. He brought an athlete's intensity and a no-nonsense work ethic to every single thing he did. On set, he was known as a total professional who demanded excellence from himself and from everyone around him. He wasn't the type to coddle his co-stars, he was the type to push them to be their absolute best. Now, imagine being 12-year-old Johnny Crawford in 1958. He came from a showbiz family and was already an industry vet, having been one of the original Disney Mouseketeers. But The Rifleman was a whole different ballgame. This was a serious, dramatic role that required him to stand shoulder to shoulder with a man who was, quite literally, larger than life. The pressure was enormous. Crawford wasn't just any child actor, he was the emotional heart of the show. Crawford later confessed that his fear was really twofold. First, there was the sheer physical presence of Connors, the man was just intimidating. His on-screen character, Lucas McCain, a man of swift justice, wasn't a huge departure from his intense off-screen personality. But maybe more importantly, Crawford was a huge baseball fan. He didn't just know Chuck Connors the actor, he idolized Chuck Connors, the first baseman for his favorite team, the Los Angeles Angels. In a 1959 interview, Crawford admitted, I was real scared when Mom told me I was going to read to play the part of Mr. Connor's son in the show. The nerves weren't just about the audition, it was the overwhelming idea of meeting a personal hero. He was more excited about meeting the baseball star than landing the part, and that created a powerful cocktail of awe and anxiety. This early period was tense for young Crawford. He remembered feeling the weight of Connor's high expectations every single day. Connors wasn't quick with praise, and Crawford often felt like he was walking on eggshells, constantly wondering if he was measuring up. Their relationship started as a young, anxious actor trying to impress a seasoned pro who demanded respect and accepted nothing less than perfection. It was the kind of dynamic that could have easily turned sour, but it didn't. Because beneath that tough exterior, Johnny Crawford started to see another side of Chuck Connors, a side the public rarely got a glimpse of. The bridge between the nervous kid and the imposing star was built on something they both loved: baseball. When Connors found out that Crawford was a die-hard fan, the dynamic started to change. Connors, the athlete, knew exactly how to connect on that level. He made the young boy feel at home, sharing stories from his days on the field and giving him tickets to see the Dodgers play. This common ground was the first thing that started to melt the ice. It made the larger-than-life idol seem human. As Crawford recalled, telling Connors he was a baseball fan made it feel like we had a lot in common. On set, this new connection grew into a powerful mentorship. Connors saw a young boy trying to make his way in Hollywood, a world that can easily chew up and spit out even the toughest kids. He decided to become a protector and a guide. In a time when child actors were often just seen as props, Connors treated Crawford with a unique kind of respect. He didn't coddle him, but he looked out for him. Connors himself described their relationship in practical, almost fatherly terms. "I treat him just like I would my own kids," he said in an interview. "I don't pamper him." This was the heart of their dynamic. Connors was instilling discipline, not just for acting, but for life. He was teaching Crawford how to handle the grueling schedule of a TV star, which meant long hours of rehearsals on top of at least 3 hours of schoolwork every day. This mentorship often took the form of tough love. Connors' perfectionism, which had at first terrified Crawford, started to make more sense. Crawford began to realize that Connors' intensity wasn't about anger, it was about his deep passion for the show and his drive to make it incredible. Still, there were moments of public scolding over a missed line, and a glare from Connors could be withering. For a kid, this could be confusing and painful. One minute, Connors was a warm, encouraging friend; the next, he was a stern taskmaster whose approval seemed to depend on a perfect performance, but woven into these tough moments were times of real connection. Crawford would later remember quiet talks in the trailer, where Connors shared life lessons from his sports career, teaching him about perseverance and humility. He taught Crawford how to ride, shoot, and act, but he also taught him how to face the camera with courage. In one of those quiet moments after a difficult scene, Connors told him, "You're not just playing a role, you're representing something real." It was in these interludes that a deeper bond was formed. Crawford began to see that Connors' strictness was a kind of armor, hiding a deep well of empathy and a real concern for his well-being. The fear that defined their early days slowly started to morph into a deep and lasting respect. As the seasons of The Rifleman rolled on, the on-screen chemistry between Lucas and Mark McCain felt more and more authentic, because it was reflecting the real-life relationship developing off-camera. The mentor-student dynamic grew into a genuine friendship, a kind of surrogate father-son bond that the whole crew could feel. Connors took his role as Crawford's protector seriously, shielding him from the cynical side of the entertainment industry. He treated Crawford like an equal whose opinions mattered, a rare gift for a young actor in that era. They'd run lines together, talk about their characters, and even play catch during breaks. These weren't the actions of a distant star, they were the interactions of two people who genuinely enjoyed each other's company. By the time the show ended, the fear Crawford once felt had been completely replaced by trust and friendship, but this wasn't a simple Hollywood cliché. In a 1983 interview, Crawford made it clear they never had the typical on-set feuds. He also said he didn't exactly see Connors as a father figure off-screen, describing him instead as an incorrigible, practical joker who was always fun, though maybe not the best influence. Yet, reflections from his later years paint a more complex picture. It seems their relationship was many things at once. On one hand, Connors was the playful friend. On the other, he was the steady mentor. Crawford's later revelations really highlight this complexity. He acknowledged Connors' intensity, but he came to understand it was part of what made him great. The pressure was real, and he admitted there were times he left the set in tears, building emotional walls to protect himself from the occasional angry outburst. He spoke of feeling torn, grateful for the man who taught him everything, but also hurt by the moments of public criticism. This raw honesty is what makes Crawford's story so powerful. He doesn't paint Connors as a saint or a monster. He presents him as a flawed, complicated human being. In one poignant reflection, Crawford summed up their entire dynamic with stunning clarity: "Chuck built me up, he tore me down. He left scars, but also gave me wings." That single sentence says it all. It was a bond forged in the fires of a demanding TV show, shaped by both hardship and incredible kindness. It was a real relationship, and as Crawford himself would say, real families are complicated. When The Rifleman ended its run in 1963, the daily connection between them naturally changed. Johnny Crawford was a young man now, a teen idol with a music career, releasing hits like Cindy's Birthday. Chuck Connors moved on too, trying to escape the typecasting that came with playing such an iconic role. For a while, they drifted apart as their lives and careers went in different directions, a distance that Crawford admitted hurt him. They'd cross paths at conventions, but the deep bond they once shared seemed to lay dormant. Decades went by. Johnny Crawford built a life outside the Hollywood spotlight, finding joy in leading his own orchestra. Chuck Connors, forever beloved as Lucas McCain, passed away in 1992. At the time of his death, Crawford didn't speak publicly about the loss. As he later admitted, it hurt too much. He described the grief as a deep and lingering ache that stayed with him for years, a testament to the huge impact Connors had on his life. He even served as a pallbearer at the funeral. It was only in his later years that Crawford began to speak openly, and with incredible emotional clarity, about Chuck Connors. His reflections weren't about settling a score. They came from a place of peace, understanding, and overwhelming gratitude. He seemed to be seeking closure, not to blame Connors, but to make peace with a past that had so powerfully shaped him. He began to see Connors not just as the giant from his childhood, but as a flawed man shaped by his own struggles. In these final, candid reflections, Crawford painted a deeply human portrait of his mentor. He praised Connors' legacy, honored their bond, and thanked him for teaching him discipline, craft, and heart. He credited Connors with shaping the man he became, suggesting his career would have been very different without his guidance. He finally understood that the tough love, which once felt so scary, was a vital part of his own story. In finally breaking his silence, Johnny Crawford did more than just satisfy fan curiosity. He offered a gift of honesty and nuance. He corrected the simple story that their relationship was either a perfect fairy tale or a hidden nightmare. The truth, as he revealed, was somewhere in between. It was real, raw, imperfect, and deeply human. He helped us all understand that the powerful bond between Lucas and Mark McCain wasn't just good acting, it was rooted in something real, something that lasted long after the cameras stopped rolling. The story of Johnny Crawford and Chuck Connors is a powerful reminder that the most important relationships in our lives are often the most complex. What are your favorite memories of The Rifleman? Did that father-son bond resonate with you? Share your thoughts in the comments below, we'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this look behind the scenes of a TV classic, make sure to subscribe for more stories that reveal the truth behind the legends of Hollywood. the legacy of the rifleman isn't just in its action sequences or its moral lessons. It's in the profound and authentic relationship at its center. Johnny Crawford's final words on Chuck Connors provide the ultimate context for that legacy. His journey from fear to friendship, from intimidation to unbreakable trust, adds incredible depth to the black and white world of North Fork that he seemed to find peace by acknowledging the different world they came from, a Hollywood in the 1950s where tough love was the norm. Through this lens of compassion, Crawford cherished the lessons and the laughter while forgiving the pain. His powerful statement, "He left scars, but also gave me wings," is maybe the most honest way to remember their relationship. It acknowledges that the people who shape us the most are often the ones who push us the hardest. In the end, Johnny Crawford didn't want to tarnish the memory of Chuck Connors or the show they built together. He wanted to enrich it. He wanted fans to know that their bond was real, forged through mutual respect and hard-earned trust. By breaking his silence, he didn't just set the record straight, he offered a masterclass in forgiveness, understanding, and